Hey everyone and welcome back. We're diving deep into John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men today.
Ooh, a classic.
It is. We've got excerpts straight from the novella, so we're really going to get you right into Depression-era California.
I love Steinbeck's writing. He just has this way of transporting you.
Right, and this one is packed with these unforgettable characters and themes of friendship and tough times.
And that setting, too.
Yeah, the setting is almost like a character in itself. The California countryside, the bunkhouse.
It really sets the stage.
Absolutely. Okay, so right away we meet these two guys, George and Lenny, and they're migrant workers traveling together.
An unlikely pair, for sure.
Totally. George is sharp, quick-witted, always looking out for Lenny. But Lenny, he's strong, but he's got, well...
A childlike mind.
Yeah, exactly. And Steinbeck really throws us right into their dynamic with this small detail. A dead mouse.
Ah, yes, the dead mouse. More than just a detail, though, right?
What do you mean?
It's this symbol,
Yeah.
kind of working on a few levels. I mean, it shows Lenny's innocence, his love for soft things, which, as we find out, gets him into trouble.
Yeah. But it's also like Steinbeck is hinting at what might happen later. Lenny's strength, it can turn destructive.
He doesn't always understand the consequences.
Exactly.
It's like a little warning sign right there at the beginning.
Subtly woven in.
And speaking of subtle details, the bunkhouse itself is full of them. Little things that tell us about the men living there.
Oh, I know what you mean. Like those little personal items. The soap, the razors.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Of their lives, their hopes. And it's interesting, even the previous guy who had their bunk is described.
Whitey, the blacksmith.
Yeah. And he was obsessed with cleanliness.
And in that setting, in that life,
Yeah.
it says a lot about wanting some control, some order.
In a world that feels chaotic, yeah. But then we meet the boss and his son, Curly.
Ooh,
Really?
Really?
Antagonistic, I think, is a good word.
Totally. Right away, we see he's looking for a fight.
Especially with bigger guys. There's that insecurity there. And the Swamper even warns George about him. Like, watch out for this guy.
It feels like trouble is coming.
For sure. And then there's Curly's wife.
Now she's complicated. Flirtatious, lonely, unhappy, stuck.
You can see how Steinbeck is showing her as trapped.
In a way, a victim of her circumstances, right? But she's also got this power, this allure.
And George is immediately like, nope, stay away from her. Danger.
He calls her jailbait.
Yeah. He sees her as a threat to their plans, to their dream.
It's interesting that word rat trap that comes up.
To describe her.
Yeah. Like she's both victim and, well, potential for disaster.
Definitely adds this tension, this feeling that things could go wrong.
For sure. And then, in the middle of all this, we meet Slim.
Slim is different, right?
He's the jerk-line Skinner. Everyone respects him. Calm, competent.
Wise, even.
And he's the one George confides in about Lenny. Tells him about what happened back home.
And Slim just listens, doesn't judge.
He even says something like, a guy don't need no sense to be a nice fella. Kindness isn't about intelligence. It's a different kind of smarts.
That's a good point. And then there's Candy, the Swamper, clinging to his old dog.
That one gets me every time.
Me too. His dog is his only friend, his companion. Unconditional love.
In a world where only strength and work seem to matter.
Yeah. And then Carlson, one of the ranch hands, suggests shooting the dog.
Because he's old and smelly. It's just brutal.
You can see the fear in Candy, like, will he be next?
When he's no longer useful.
It's a dark foreshadowing, Ray.
Totally. But before we get to all that, we need to talk about the dream. George and Lenny's dream.
Your little piece of hope.
Their own farm. Live off the fac of the land, as they say.
They describe it so vividly, with the rabbits and everything.
It's more than just land, though. It's belonging, safety.
A place where they can just be themselves.
Exactly. Accepted for who they are. And it's not just for them, is it? Candy wants in on that dream, too.
Oh, when he offers to put up his money?
It suddenly feels possible.
Yeah, for a second there, you believe it could happen. But like you said, Steinbeck is always reminding us that things are fragile.
Yeah. And then, bam, the fight.
Curly and Lenny.
You can just feel it coming, can't you?
Totally. Lenny's scared. He doesn't know what to do, and he just crushes Curly's hand.
All that pent-up anger, all that insecurity from Curly just...
Explodes.
Yeah, and now the stakes are higher. George can't always protect Lenny anymore.
Curly wants revenge.
It changes everything. George even tells Lenny, if anything happens, hide by the river.
Chillin', right.
Totally. And speaking of hiding, there's that scene with Lenny in Crook's room.
Crux, the stable buck.
Isolated because of his race. Steinbeck really lays bare the racism of the time.
He's got no one, no real companionship.
And yet he's drawn to Lenny. Maybe because they're both outsiders in a way.
Yeah, both longing to belong.
Right. And then, Boom. Curly's wife walks in.
Like throwing a match on gasoline.
She disrupts this connection they're building even if she doesn't mean to.
She's bored, lonely, and I think she knows she has power over these men.
Dangerous power, especially with Lenny.
And it leads to that scene with the puppy, the one Slim gave him.
Oh, man. Lenny just wants to pet it,
But his strength, it's too much.
he panics. You can see he wants to do what George told him, but he just can't.
And that sets up the final encounter with Curly's wife.
The tension just builds and builds throughout the book, and then it all comes to a head in the barn.
Yeah, it's almost like you can't breathe reading that scene.
Curly's wife, she just wants someone to talk to listen. And Lenny, well, he's in over his head.
It's an accident, but
Terrible, irreversible accident. Her neck, it's just like the puppy.
Steinbeck doesn't shy away from the details.
Nope. And Lenny runs, just like George told him to.
But George, he has to make a choice. Protect Lenny or let him face the consequences.
Consequences that would be brutal, no question.
He goes to find Lenny at that place by the river.
It's heartbreaking. Lenny's talking about the rabbits lost in his dream world.
And George, he doesn't yell. He comforts Lenny, lets him die thinking about that happy future.
Mercy killing. An act of love, but, oh, man, the cost.
George has to lie to the others, make up a story.
But protect Lenny, even in death.
They walk off together, George and Slim, to get a drink. Just that image, it says so much.
The shared grief, the weight of what George did.
Yeah.
And then Carlson, he just doesn't get it.
What's eating them two guys? He has no idea.
Not a clue.
Yeah, it's like this heavy silence between them. But one thing I keep thinking about are all the symbols Steinbeck uses. Like hands.
Oh, yeah. Hands. Definitely a recurring motif.
From the very beginning, with Curly's glove.
Ah, Curly's glove. Trying to hide something, right? His insecurities.
Yeah, and then Candy's missing hand.
Always there. A reminder of what he's lost and what he fears losing.
And then Lenny. His hands are so strong, but
But they destroy what he loves.
the mouse, the puppy, Curly's wife. It's tragic, you know?
Like, even good intentions, good love can have these awful consequences.
It's like Steinbeck is saying, look, life is complicated. Nothing is simple.
Exactly. And he uses these physical details, like hands, to show us the inner lives of these characters.
Their hopes and fears, all wrapped up in something so ordinary.
It's what makes the story so powerful, so universal.
Yeah.
So, stepping back, what can we take away from this deep dive into Of Mice and Men?
That's a good question.
I think Steinbeck gives us this window into a specific time, the Depression.
Yeah, the hardship, the struggle.
But he also goes deeper, touches on these timeless themes.
Hardship,
Loneliness.
the American dream, or maybe the impossibility of it.
Right. He makes us ask tough questions
Mm.
about human nature, about the choices we make,
And about empathy. Can we understand people who are different from us?
especially when the world is telling us not to.
It's definitely left me thinking about George. Was shooting Lenny really mercy, or was it a way to avoid something harder?
That's what's so great about Steinbeck. He doesn't give us easy answers. He wants us to wrestle with it.
To figure out our own answers.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who hasn't read Of Mice and Men,
You're missing out.
it's a must-read. Steinbeck's writing is beautiful, and these characters will stick with you.
It's a story that makes you feel something, makes you think, and maybe even changes how you see the world.
And on that note, until next time, keep diving deep into the stories that matter, the ones that make you question everything.